The Lumen is a device for measuring whether or not you're currently burning fat or carbohydrates. It's a pretty simple concept consisting of a CO2 and airflow sensor. And having breathed through it, you're assigned a score of 1 to 5, 1 meaning you're mostly burning fat, 5 being you're mostly burning carbs. And that depends on the CO2 output of your breath. But that's underselling the whole system, because together with an app, it forms a complete dieting and metabolic gamification system. If you're the sort of person who loves to keep track of all your health data, if you have an Apple Watch to constantly take blood oxygen levels, or you're the sort of person who does the occasional ECG for funsies, then you will love the Lumen. And if you're attempting to do a keto diet and don't have a reliable way of telling you you're currently in a state of ketosis, you'll also love the Lumen. But at nearly $300, is this a device you or I could make use of in any meaningful way? Let's find out. I'm James Bruce and you're watching MakeUseOf.com reviews. So to be clear, I'm not a health nut in any way. I did actually just buy an Apple Watch, literally just to test this with. However, I did previously use a Mi Band 5, and my motivation with the Lumen is evaluating this as a useful dieting tool for a layperson, someone like me, who probably doesn't exercise all that much, but also doesn't eat particularly unhealthily. However, I will say that the app that accompanies the Lumen has 3 different tracks that you can go on that you choose when you set it up. So if you're not interested in dieting specifically, you can follow the track that improves your metabolic flexibility, for instance. That's the ability to switch between carbs and fat burning as needed. Obviously, if you are strongly into your whole keto diet thing, then this is going to be a tremendous help for you. But for me, it's just a motivational aid, I think, a tool to help me understand how my diet affects me. And I guess I went into this review without any actual expectations. It's quite a new product category for me. I mean, there is no competition for this on the market either. I have done a low carb diet before and it worked. I managed to lose sort of 15 kilograms, but as with most fad diets, I lapsed back into old ways pretty quickly. So I know that low carb diets can work for me. I just need something to help me along the path again, to motivate me and to help me understand my metabolism. So just bear that in mind during this review. Okay, so onto the hardware. In the box, you'll find the Lumen itself, which is basically a small breathalyzer. Kind of looks like an e-cigarette, and it features a magnetic cap, a silicone-coated body, and a small mesh underneath, allowing you to breathe all the way through it. There's a charging base which the Lumen can sit on as needed. There's a USB-C charging cable that plugs into the case, and there's also a neat little fabric carrying case, so you can keep it with you all the time and not get it dirty. Now, you're encouraged to keep it charging overnight, but don't worry if you're heading away for a bit. I used it pretty extensively, like 5-10 measurements a day for 2 weeks. And in that time, it only went down to 10% battery life. So really not a concern there. Don't worry if you can't charge it for a week or so, it won't matter. But when you do need to charge it, just place it on the dock and these little pogo pins will connect and charge. It's a gorgeously simple bit of hardware, actually. The Lumen is incredibly easy to use. There's only one button on the device to turn it on, and it automatically sleeps again when you're finished. However, it does need the accompanying app. There's no way to take measurements throughout the day and save them to the device to sync up later. Now, thankfully, you don't need to faff around with Bluetooth that much. You just press it once to turn it on and then open up the app and it'll all automatically pair. It's super quick and very simple to use.
Inhale deeply through your Lumen. Hold your breath.
The only slight annoyance for me was that the app itself takes about 5 seconds to load.
Exhale in 3, 2, 1.
Now, as well as having to use the app, it also requires an active internet connection to work, as I found out when I killed the Wi-Fi and data. Now, this probably won't matter to most people, but it is a curious requirement. Combined with the fact that it takes a while to load the app, implies that the entire app is running on the cloud. On one occasion, I got a spinning ball of analysis death after taking some measurements. That could have been a server error, but it just couldn't work anything out.
Exhale in 3, 2, 1.
On other occasions, I've opened up the app and it just didn't have a take a measurement button, which again I assume was some kind of error on the server side, because locally there's nothing wrong with the phone. So that's all a bit strange, but anyway, most of the time won't be a problem. When you first set up your account, you'll be entering all sorts of personal information, selecting which track to follow, and if you choose to follow the weight loss track, you'll need to enter your target weight. So I'm about 110 kilos currently, and my target is 85, which it estimated I could achieve by next March. Now, I know I can lose 10-15 kilograms fairly simply by adjusting my diet and basically, well, starving myself. So I know that's achievable. Actually, using the Lumen to take a measurement requires you to breathe in through the Lumen until you have a good lungful. Wait about 10 seconds, then breathe out again at a steady flow rate. And you have constant feedback through the app interface. You'll usually need to do this twice to get an accurate measurement, although sometimes it asks to take a measurement again if it's not confident in the result. Sometimes, though, you'll only need to do it once. So it can take a good minute or two, depending on the accuracy at that particular moment. I don't have any lung problems, but obviously if you have a limited breathing capacity, this may not work for you. Although it does claim to adjust to your individual lung capacity, I assume there's an upper and lower limit on that. Clearly, if you're coughing and spluttering most of the time, this won't work for you. So via the Lumen app and various notifications that come in through the day, you're encouraged to take plenty of measurements throughout the day and assign each of those to an activity such as 30 minutes before and after eating or before and after exercise. Most critical though is the one that you take first thing in the morning, because that's when you will have hopefully been fasting for 8 hours or more as you sleep. So really the first thing you do in the morning should be burning fat, not carbohydrates. But based on the first measurement, you'll also get a diet plan for the day. Now, to be honest, I didn't use the exact recipes or anything, but I did take inspiration from them. So if it instructed me to have some carbs, I did. And if it said no carbs or super low carb day, I tried to do that. There's a good selection of recipes, but you can mark ingredients as okay or not, and it'll filter those out for you. And actually, some of the recipes look good. Again, though, I wasn't religious about following them because I have a family, and adjusting our meals would be very awkward. But as a general advice thing, I think it works. Also, after each morning measurement, you'll be filling in some information like how many carbs you ate the day before. So do try and keep that accurate. The newest feature that's just launched is the Apple Watch app, but it's quite limited in that it can't actually connect to the Lumen, so you still need your phone to take a measurement. It does, however, send you reminders and give you a summary of the measurements you've taken during the day, but overall the watch integration is a little bit disappointing. I don't think that's the Lumen's fault so much, it just can't connect over Bluetooth, so you're very limited there. So after 2 weeks of use, you'll get your first Lumen Flex score. I got a 14.8, but before you accuse me of being a miserable failure, it's from a scale of 0 to 21, so that's like at least a pass, I think. And this number represents your body's flexibility when it comes to burning carbs, or how easily it can adapt from one to the other. Your aim is to improve that score, the idea being that when you eat carbs, you should be able to use them straight away and not store them as fat, but at the same time be able to draw on fat reserves when needed. And I guess that kind of makes sense. Like I said, I have lost weight dieting relatively easily in the past, so maybe my metabolism is quite flexible already. In terms of how to verify the accuracy of the score it assigns, there aren't any other consumer-grade devices like this to compare to, nor do I have access to medical equipment. However, Lumen has done their own studies to verify the accuracy of the device compared to the gold standard lab RER test, it's called, or respiratory exchange ratio, which is essentially the ratio of oxygen taken in to carbon dioxide you breathe out. A lower ratio of around 0.7 means that you're mostly burning fat. A higher ratio of anything 1 or over means you're burning carbs. So more CO2 out, carbs, less CO2 out, ketosis or burning fat. However, I will point out that 2 of the authors of that paper who designed the tests to validate the results are in fact employed by the company behind the Lumen, Israeli-based Metaflow Inc. However, it has been peer-reviewed, so it should be trustworthy. So anecdotally, if I pigged out on carbs the night before, I woke up and had a bad reading of 3 or 4, meaning I was still burning off those carbs in the morning. If I was mindful of what I ate and actually had a low carb day, I usually ended up with a 2. Most of the day I had a score of 3, which means I'm burning a balance of both carbs and fat, so I assume that's a good thing. On one occasion I managed to get a 1 in the morning, and actually I have absolutely no idea why. So anyway, now we get on to the big question of, is it worth it? It's a fascinating device. If you're actually looking for a way to measure your metabolism for whatever reason, then I can definitely see this being of use. Assuming the results are accurate, this is the only simple and viable way for anyone to check what fuel source they're currently using. There's simply nothing else comparable to it on the market at the moment. The Lumen itself won't hack your metabolism though. It's a CO2 measuring device. It's up to you to act upon that information. What I think the Lumen excels at is actually as an educational tool and a motivational aid. There's nothing harmful about taking a few minutes out of your day to sit down, relax, and just breathe. It's really probably something we should all be doing more often. And it did make me consider very carefully, constantly, everything I put into my body. Could I lose weight without this? Sure. But then I've been telling myself that for the past couple of years since lockdown started, so maybe not. Hey. But to me, the numbers just don't add up. To start with, it's a discrete score of 1 to 5 that it assigns you, and most of the time I found it would actually just be 2 to 4. Like I said, sometimes the scores didn't really make sense. I had just eaten a big load of carbs the night before. I got a 1. I'd been fasting for most of the day. Oh, here's a 4. But then you click on the little help icon to explain these odd, unexpected scores, and you'll see a long list of circumstances that can lead to unexpected scores. For instance, fasting will make you burn into your fat reserves typically, but if you fast for too long, you'll burn carbs instead. Where do these carbs come from? And who knows? What's the magical crossover point at which this happens? Who knows? Even if you have a low carb day, if you pigged out a few days ago, you might have suddenly swapped to burning carbs. So for me, I struggled to connect what little data I got from the device to real-world actionable targets. The only target it gave me every day was to do a low-carb diet every day. Or maybe I'm just not seeing the bigger picture. But generally, when a score is that vague, it's usually to mask the fact that the data underlying the score is either unreliable or so derived as to be meaningless. Finally, I need to tell you that the Lumen is a subscription device, and I didn't tell you this right at the start because you'd have turned the video off. It's not just a $200 to $300 purchase, it's also $19 per month once your initial period expires. And I can't for the life of me figure out what that subscription pays for. Yes, the app runs in the cloud, which is why it takes so long to load over my horrendously slow internet, and occasionally didn't work at all for me. But there's no need for it to run in the cloud. It could be local if there's actually a good formula being used to work out these numbers. There's no reason it can't run locally, even on the device itself. The recipes don't appear to have been updated in the month that I've been using it. There's no sort of exercise classes or a personal trainer telling you exactly how to act on your data, how to improve it. So what continuous service are they offering exactly? When you purchase your device, you'll either get a 3, 6 or 12-month subscription included in that initial price. So if you pay $199, you get the device plus 3-month service. $250 gets you 6 months, $300 gets you 12-month service included. So you can commit to longer periods up front if you're able to, but after that, it feels like it's just a commitment subscription, a psychological trick to force you into using it. If it was either or, I think I could highly recommend it. Either get the device for free and pay $19 a month, or pay $300 up front and it works forever. Maybe you don't get recipes included. But as it is, $300 plus $240 a year for the rest of your life feels a bit much. On the other hand, some people spend $30, $40 a month on a box containing some bath soap and a book. So in the grand scheme of things, if this is making a difference to your life, then it's probably worth it. As for me, I still haven't lost any weight. I'm James Bruce, you've been watching MakeUseOf.com reviews, and if this review helped you to make your mind up about the Lumen, then I'd really appreciate the thumbs up. As meaningless as it seems, it tells YouTube to nudge this video a bit higher, which means we can reach more people. Do also consider subscribing for more gadget reviews and giveaways, and do check out our main site over at MakeUseOf.com. Until next time, thanks for watching.